Hi, all right there. Now, first things first. I know it's very early in the UK, but I'm with you. Look at thine eyes. Look at that. What's that? Look at that. Is that? Oh, it's a hair. I've got so few. Now, I've only just woken up myself because I went to bed at 5:30 this morning. I just do every night. And every night I berate myself for it. It gets to about 4 and I'm like, go on, just get to bed, man. You're going to be up till 5:30. I should just accept it and know that that's when I'm going to go to bed. But waking up at 1:30, I made that thumbnail, you can probably tell, before my eyes had even started working. But having the very handsome figure of myself to use for the thumbnail, it was all right. I chucked Semiogogue in there, which, you know, balanced reality up a little bit. He's a handsome chap, though, isn't he? Fuck me. You can't go wrong with that kind of visage. A bit of Francais. Oh, yeah. We'll be talking. We'll probably be dropping in many Latin phrases, a lot of French, you know, not really. This is thanks to all the Brits who've got up early, and thanks to all the Brits who maybe always get up this early but have decided to tune in. You know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and when I lived in England, I went to bed at 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, especially to hear a couple of blokes talk about meaning. Now, this stream has taken 48 emails to arrange. Now, let me just put that into context. Hello, Plastic African. Hello, Lumi. Hello, Historical It is early. Historical Doppelganger. Hello, Vladito. Joe Pineapples is on the phone. Brian Ravenscroft has caught a live one. Hello, Ben, Evan, Baz, Lulu. Hello, Lulu. You all right, darling? Hello, Joshua Vaj. Vincent, Mousecat. He was in very early. He's going to play this stream later to his team on loudspeaker. Yeah, maybe you want to hear it first because this isn't my specialist area. I haven't studied this. I have a bit, you know. I studied art for 7 years, and obviously there's a bit of meaning. But this isn't. We're not going in loaded up with texts. This could go anywhere, and that's lovely. That's fine. Hello, BK Mac. Nice to see thee. It's nice that there's a few people from the other side of the pond in probably thinking, oh, this is more like it. This is a bit better. Hello, Hoax. Zeitgeist's on the firm. Amazing. And Semiogogue's just turned up. So without further ado, let's bring that Prince of Pan into the stream.
Uh-oh. No sound.
Oh, no.
What the fuck?
But look at him, people. Even when he's not managed to make it work, just enjoy the aesthetic.
If you can hear me, I'm gonna go out and come back in.
Okay. He's an incredible man, isn't he? What, you know what? I miss. I suppose I am a bit of a dandy when I go out and put a whistle on, but I'm certainly not a dandy in the nud. I mean, I have got undercrackers on, but it is 36 degrees centigrade here at the moment. So if you're a Semiogogue viewer and you're new here, that's why I'm in the nuddy. Because if I wear a t-shirt, it will be soaking wet in about 10 minutes. Whereas if I don't wear one, that's what you came here for, isn't it? Hello, who said that? Yes, almost Sylvan. Hello, Mr. Enfilade. Hello, Emma. Plastic African says, I ain't ever brought up art to you, but now I will. Well, there you go. Zeitgeist is flying along. Well, yes, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by my guest. 48 emails. To put that into some kind of perspective, I've got Timothy Davis, who's a jet bomber driver, pilot. And I emailed him a couple of days ago. I said, Tim, do you want to come on my Channel next week talk about Maverick from an actual jet pilot's point of view. I said, and he wrote back and said, yeah, all right, what time? I said, 5:30 UK, done. 3 emails. Me and Semiogogue, I'm not joking, 48 emails. I'm not blaming, hello RMF, hello Al. I'm not blaming Semiogogue for that. I'm blaming, which is quite, I'll tell you what, I'm blaming the sum that is more, I'm blaming the expression which is more, that is the sum of the parts. You know what I'm saying? Because I haven't said it very well. Like I said, I'm only 30 minutes out of bed myself. But we will be talking about such things because there is a reason. Hello, Poke the Bear. Hello, Minnie Owen. It's not Minnie Owen, is it? That was a terrible guess. Min Owen. Look at that. I'm here for Semi. Yeah, that means something different where I come from, but it's all right. I thought you retired. Yeah, I did, but I was injecting diazepam, so I made a lot of bad decisions. Well, the first one being to inject diazepam, but the problem with substances is once that ball's rolling, it's kind of hard to get off the ride. Interesting though, there might be a load of people who don't know that I come back. Can you hear me, son?
I believe I can. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're excellent. Now there's a moment of relief. 48 emails, Mr. Gog.
48 emails. What on earth are you talking about? Sorry, I'm just going to go ahead.
That's how many it took us to arrange this.
Yeah, it did. Hang on, I'm going to rip you off as I have hundreds and hundreds of times now. I'm going to write going live now.
I was going to bring that up. No, go for it. That is definitely on the agenda. Probably the only thing that's on the agenda, actually. So people, when I go live, I write live, now. And I used analytics to see what worked best. So I put the hard work in. And then one day on Semiogogue's Telegram, I saw him say live. And I thought,
that dirty bastard.
Yeah, filth. The internet filth.
Yes, that is what I am. You've got me late at night, so I prepared a beverage.
You've got me early in the morning, and I've done the same. I've got a mild stimulant drink.
Well, I've got a mild depressant drink. Just
there you go.
A little bit of apple juice for late at night. Yes, indeed. Well, I'm very, very happy to be here, and I'm glad we could put this together, man. I've enjoyed talking with you in the past, and very happy to do so now.
Yeah, how's things been going? You've had a busy old year.
Yeah, I relocated, man. I have escaped the city. I have come to the land of scorpions and every kind of pestiferous insect, but there's solitude. There are trees. And at night I just listen to the bugs. So
I as you know, I relocated a few years back to a land of insects too. And
you've probably got insects and snakes, that I've never even seen.
I see people eat deep fried tarantulas and things, so that's not even a delicacy. That's just
no, indeed.
Can we get some tarantulas? Yeah, and the legs are kind of the legs are kind of crispy, but it's when you hit the body that interior hasn't cooked so well. But that's what they like. They the distinction between the crispy exterior and then just a mouthful of.
See, I come from New Orleans. My people eat like soft shell crab sandwiches with like the legs of the fried crab hanging off the sides.
Wow, there you go.
That I can, but I still, and I have friends who don't eat seafood, and they'll go on and on about how they're sea bugs and all this other nonsense. But you have to draw the line somewhere,
I think you got to remember what happened in Cambodia and how their diet was influenced. Like I saw a snail downstairs, and it was about the size of my fist without the shell. That was another bit. And I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, "Oh, look at that!" And she went,
"Oh, well, it's like escargot, man.
Yeah, but not that big. not that big.
If they cooked bigger escargot, I'd eat it that size, man. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd keep an open mind about that because, yeah.
Okay. Well, how about this one? I went out for dinner the other night to one of her friends' house, and she put a plate of living crabs down on the table. Now, we all know the crabs in a bucket thing. Similar technique. They have a particular plate for this purpose. So they're all trying to get out, but they can't. They pick them up live, eat the living crab, uncooked.
Well, yeah, I could. There are all kinds of what is the word I'm looking for? It's not by jingo. It's not chauvinistic. It's not bigoted. It's what is it where you look askance at the customs of foreign countries? Whatever that is, I could do that, but why? Why?
I haven't adapted. I do try things. I do try to try things though. And I do. You move to another country. I'm a guest there. So
yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons why I didn't want to say anything negative.
Yeah, and isn't it weird that as a visitor, I respect my position as a second-class citizen. I don't make any demands on this place. It's a privilege.
It was one of your fellow countrymen. Let me see it. If I can find the damn quote. I've quoted it before, but this one I did not put into my memory. Traveler? Thomas Nash. Let's see if this pulls it up. Yes. This is a quote from Thomas Nash, very famous for having gotten into a big argument in the pamphlets with one of the Harvey brothers there in Jacobean or Elizabethan England, whichever one it was. So much so that the king had to come in and shut it all down because there were going to be riots and everything. Everyone was waiting for each one to release his pamphlet in turn. But anyway, in the Unfortunate Traveler, Thomas Nash wrote, "A traveler must have the back of an ass to bear all, a tongue like the tail of a dog to flatter all, the mouth of a hog to eat what is set before him, the ear of a merchant to hear all and say nothing."
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Couldn't be more on point. I'm researching the picaresque novel. I've written one.
I have one dear friend, and I'm like, write a fucking picaresque novel. I've got the gloves on.
No, that was amazing. Don't worry, the bromance is on. That was my NLP. Is that mirroring?
Yes. I don't know. I do this when you're talking to me. I do this to make people upset and worried.
It works, man. It works. It works. Time. It's like magic.
A picaresque novel. Mighty. I have a friend who led a picaresque life, and consequently, I said, "You must write a picaresque novel."
There you go.
And this is what I tell people. Yeah, and he doesn't. He's too busy with real life now. I'm like, but if you do it, I'm all about it. In fact, this is perfect. The Unfortunate Traveler is one of the earliest of the picaresque novels.
There you go. I am aware of that.
Well.
Let me just thank Chrissy. Chrissy, thanks for that. And I don't know if a Semiogogian is a thing, but it is now. That's how it goes.
I'll take it.
Nice one, Chrissy. Appreciato. Bit of housekeeping. Super chats at the bottom, entropys at the top. That's it. That's my grift for today. The novel's nearly done. It's 6 years I've been writing it, but so we're talking about meaning. That's what I want to talk about anyway, but we can go anywhere. And people always say to me, it's not my first novel, but it's the first novel as an adult, as a more mature writer. And they say, "What's it about?" And nothing. It's not. There's no hero's journey. There's no story arc. It's not about anything.
So it's Mike Lee's Naked or something like that.
Well, it's picaresque. There's 1,000 stories. There's 1,000.
The nested stories.
But they're absolutely exactly. So I'd probably say more fractular. So it's told in first person, present, but it refers back to the past and then in one paragraph it will change tenses. Not to be, but because it needs to.
Mm-mm-mm.
But for instance, I'll be talking about, to keep it basic, I'm talking about walking down the road. I'll see something that reminds me of something, so then I'll start talking about that. As I'm talking about that, I'll be reminded of something else, and so then I'll go that direction, and then that might happen 8 times, say, but then I've got to come back to walking down the road because that's what's happening in the present of the novel, and I've got to come back tracing my steps essentially. Otherwise, well, why did you start talking about that and then get distracted by another memory? So it's kind of fractular, sort of,
And if someone was trying to map out the narrative, it would end up looking like one of those hipster music charts that has all the branches of every little different subgenre that splinters off. Like if someone tried to track the different threads.
But 4D.
4D. Nice. Nice. Well, I like it for you, man. It sounds great. Tell me more.
Now my viewers who've got up at 8 o'clock in the morning are gonna, the face slap meme where they're all about to do it. But I've managed to make friends with one of England's most successful writers and do Zoom calls and emails with him. And he likes my writing. He said he seeks to emulate my writing. And I'm just sort of reading the email going, seriously, life as a failed writer is not easy.
Take it where you can get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was running around the house. I was dancing and memorizing it. It said some beautiful things, and also there's advice in there. But it is at the end. I write chronologically, and then I just keep writing it and keep writing it and keep writing it until I can't write anymore. And
So no outlining, none of that.
No.
So
because there's no outline. I mean, there's a time frame. Man goes to Thailand to get off of heroin, and he's got his return flight is in 8 weeks. That's it. That's all you get, really, and you find that out like in the first page. And there's very little character development. No, they're just boring. I'm bored.
Right. Yeah, but a series of anecdotes, if presented in the right way. My problem is that as I read something, I attempt to impose, since we're roughly talking about meaning, I attempt to impose some sort of order, right?
Sorry, Ollie, Semiogogue, did you say...
Call me Oliver, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So, did you say when you're reading or when you're writing?
When I'm reading.
Right.
When I'm writing, I look for, well, if it's poetry, there has to be some initial impression that kind of gobsmacked me and left me going, oh, right? But for fiction, I have to have some, because I came through screenwriting, so not any kind of great success with screenwriting, but I had one film I worked on as a writer get some awards, and I've worked on others that then went nowhere. But
I'm a failed screenwriter. I ended up shelving someone's movie for breach of contract. They still owe me $350,000, so that film won't be getting shown. But anyway, sorry, carry on. But I'm aware of screenwriting. Horrible. Right. I hated it.
Right. Well, I liked the order about it because I'm looking for, like, anything from Aristotle's Poetics to like a Sid Field book on, 3 acts. So when I'm writing myself, when I myself am writing, I attempt to have at least something that I'm writing towards, because I started writing early, just writing, and then discovered a foundering middle process where you're attempting to figure out where the hell it goes, and everything becomes a kludge on top of a kludge. But when I'm reading, to the point, I'm looking for some sort of order. I seek the logos behind the writer, not just to psychologize, but I have to look for some order there.
I mean, that's interesting that you like. I mean, when I was screenwriting, I just despised that. And the director, it was my first ever screenplay, and he had to teach me how to do it. And it was always, you got to write less. I don't want you to do that. That's my job.
Right.
And I was like, no, I want to
Yeah,
tell
you're
the
just like
story.
a fucking drummer, man. You know, the drummer in the band who feels he's like super important and is always trying to fill everything with sound. Yeah,
That's it. Exactly.
with the film. Yeah. Yeah, you must show it. You must show the story. You
Well,
cannot say the story.
you know, I think the problem I done was I tried to write a movie rather than a screenplay. What? Thank you, Plastic African. That's much. You can use that as well if you want. Plastic African says, "The shepherd swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love." It's the best come on I've had this week, Plastic African, and with a 10-bit there as well. I'm yours, son.
And did you see how May was used twice there? How cleverly?
I was concentrating too much, but yeah, I have now. That god-awful noise that's just started will stop in a minute. If it doesn't, I'll close the window. You can probably hear that, right?
Just
Thank you,
very
Plastic
faintly.
African. Yeah, it usually calms down once the engine's cooled down. So here's the thing. While we're talking about writing screenplays or writing anything, so and I think I mentioned this to you already. So let's say you or I or anyone writes a book or makes a painting. So there's a gap of some sort, a space, or a disconnection or a connection between the artist, the writer, and the work. You know, they're not the same thing, or maybe they are. But then there's also a gap or some kind of disconnection, stroke connection between the work of art or the book or the film, whatever, and the person consuming it or reading it. Yeah, you with me? So I think what I'm interested in what goes on in those spaces, and as creative people, how do you use it? Can you use it? Is it something that imposes itself on you, or is it something that you can work with? There's things going on there. There's things I feel haven't been talked about sufficiently in a world where people talk about meaning all the time. And it will quickly come back to the ideas of objective reality. But if I watch a movie and the lead character's name's Chris Dangerfield, and you watch the same movie, well, the things that go on in those spaces have already given us two different experiences of the same object. And I think that's what I'm really interested in and have been for a long time. And I'm having trouble finding many people talking about it. I think I mentioned the Roland Barthes essay to you. I think it's Barthes. It might be Foucault. Death of the Author.
No, that one you sent me, that I didn't read because you said we wouldn't necessarily have to cover it. But I know Bart and I dig him.
Yeah, it can be kind of summed up quite quickly in as much as what the author wants to put into a work is kind of, it's important, otherwise it doesn't get made. But his or her or Z's control of meaning is next to nothing, essentially, because it's going to go into different people's lives.
Right. The dead hand of the past is frustrated, right? The thing that would attempt to shape the experience of the work is over time, or would be, if anyone even imagined it could be extended, it is over time frustrated, right? So think about a statue of our founding fathers, in your country or mine. Think about what sort of response is generated by exposure to it relative to what was first, or think about a word. Just take a word like nice, right?
Yeah.
Nice, as I'm sure you know, meant something very specific and fine. It could be a filigree, it could be a detail, right? One could refer to nicely worked lace, right? but it could also be a trivial detail, which is where we get the idea of niceties, right?
Yeah.
And so a nice person once upon a time was one concerned with trivialities, very likely a superficial person, and a bit perhaps even of a simpleton. And so now today we say, oh, that person, oh, she was so nice, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the dual valence even there because they've forgotten the original meaning of the word.
If there was one.
Yes, they forgot the initial cluster or the initial semiotic field, or I should say, sorry, semantic field. They have dispensed or lost all cultural knowledge of that, and they use it in a new way. But here's the real brain fucker. It's actually still true because, yes, they are indeed nice, right?
Okay.
So take, for example, to take it out of words, there's one that I spent a lot of time looking at and I've talked about on my channel, which is the Caduceus as a symbol of medicine. Right. And the Caduceus is a symbol of Hermes. It's originally a symbol of commerce. It represents commercial trade. It could also represent neutrality.
What, we're talking about the staff and the snake here?
No, we're talking about the staff with wings and two snakes, which was confused by imbeciles, nice people, for the rod of... No, but you were actually thinking of the correct symbol, the rod of Asclepius, that is a single staff with one snake, right? But because of some shit that went on, I wrote about it back when, as a charitable form of self-improvement, I wrote for Wikipedia. I sorted that and settled it on the rod of Asclepius versus Caduceus page.
This is amazing.
But here's the point. It's a symbol of commerce. And because, as it happens in the United States, they didn't want to look like the Swiss, so they did not choose the cross. The red cross is, of course, the Swiss flag, right?
Right.
So the American Medical Corps decided they were going to use the the Caduceus as a symbol of for their doctors.
Which is that?
Yes, for their physicians. But the thing is that they were considered neutral, like envoys, which would go with Hermes, and that's Hermes' symbol. But Hermes is also the god of merchants, liars, thieves, mercenaries, gamblers, right?
Strangely appropriate.
Yes, so that's my point, is that today they forgot what the Caduceus meant. They use it as a symbol of medicine. It's not true. And yet, when we look at that used as a symbol for big pharma, it's still accurate because what they care about is fucking commerce, not medicine.
Yeah, so that's excellent.
Multivalence, right?
Yep, that's an excellent example. But I don't necessarily think this requires time.
No, indeed.
I mean, time has a massive effect on meaning, of course. The example you just gave, perfect. That's incredible, actually. Is that your wiki, is it? If I go and read that later, you put it...
The one on the controversy about the two of them? Yeah. Yes.
No, I'll have to check
I mean, they edited everything and fucked it up. Except for the art of memory. That one that I wrote is still largely intact, but yeah.
Imagine people actually making an effort with Wikipedia. Didn't the boss the other day say, I don't even trust my own website now? The bloke who invented it says he's given up on
I don't. Fuck all of them, man. I mean, sorry if this is family friendly, but yeah, I went in there and tried to write for them. And actually, I got in a huge argument about Stirner and Nietzsche, and had a huge citation war that took like 6 months. And I forced the people on the Nietzsche page, and it's still there too. And it's the largest group of footnotes for any edition. I said that Nietzsche was likely influenced by Stirner, and they brought in some editor to argue about it as though they knew more about it than me. Anyway. And because I cited Deleuze, and they're all Pomo leftists, they were like, he cited Deleuze, surely you have to put this here. So I won. I actually won against the leftists.
I've got to shut some windows. Monsoon coming.
If I'm not mistaken, I saw...
Oh, Cambodia. Can you hear that, or is it all right?
Oh, I can hear the rain.
Yeah, sorry about that, people. There's not
it's much... All right. It makes me want to take a nap. It's actually a little bit romantic. Can we be prison gay here together since your shirt's off?
Stop. Right, 1 second. I might have to put my headphones in because I can't hear you. Apologies, Oliver. Fran, nice one for that, mate. Let me sort my headphones out and I will address it. 1 second. New computer. Don't know how to do this. In Cambodia. Do you know the song by Kim Wilde?
Negative.
No. It's really weird. She's like dancing in amongst sort of bamboo and animals that aren't native to Cambodia. Can you say something, Oliver?
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Yeah, why is that not working?
Still not working. Hickory dickory dock. No?
Yeah, no, it's not working. That's a terrible shame.
I prefer wires because, yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Oh, no, that's no good because I've got a wrong connection. 1 second. It is worth me. While I'm doing this, you can explain to Fran why the CIA won't admit the flat Earth. I'll be just sorting the headphones out.
Yeah, it's actually because the flat Earth is a pizza crust, and if they were to admit it, it would give credence to the idea that the CIA is actually an organized crime organization because of the associations of pizza with people from the island of Sicily with tightly curled hair. And there's also the issue, frankly, of the pizza. The pizza would have to come out of an oven. And if you mention ovens, there's trouble. I don't know, dude. I have no idea. I never followed, except for that weird guy who like shot himself up into the air in his homemade rocket. I don't follow such.
Sort that out. I've got used to it now anyway. I think it was an unconscious excuse to hand you the flat Earth question. Thank you, Fran. Much appreciated. I don't know anything about the flat Earth, although I'm sure it's flat in parts. Does that count? So we talked about time and the effect of time that time has on meaning.
Right, but you mean there's a synchronic issue? Yeah,
well, as well as. You know, just the fact that me and you are different people with different life experiences, the piece of work, the language unit, whether it, like you say, it could be a word, it could be a footprint, it could be a movie, a painting, but because when I look at let's take one of Warhol's Monroes, okay? They're just the Campbell's one because it's easy to identify. So we're both looking at one of Warhol's screen prints. So we've already got an issue with a copy with no original, and which is a different argument. But we're both looking at it. But I think what you called semantic sort of field or my sort of semiotic context is markedly different to yours. Completely different because that's what defines us as separate. And so my interpretation of what this means cannot be the same as yours. It cannot be. Now, that isn't in itself a big deal. But when it comes to the artist and the artist's role in making work, what the artist actually does, I think that's where it gets interesting. And then when you move it to literature and you're looking at millions of words and thousands of scenes and etc., meaning is, I don't want to use, I sort of want to say corrupted or the intention to mean is corrupted because
it's subject to entropy. The order of it begins to decay, right? Okay,
but again, isn't that time based? If the decay would suggest
time. But the thing is that you also have the idea of stages of distance that need not necessarily be temporal. right? So you could say, like the game of telephone, if it happened in an instant, right? As
I
the
don't know
message,
the game of telephone.
it's where somebody says something into somebody's ear at a party, and then they say it into someone else's ear, and it gets slightly modified each time until it comes out the ass end of it with the entire context shifted, right?
In England, we call it Chinese whispers. We really do.
I like it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, having had more experience at the Byzantine court of the Mandarins.
We probably named it in between the Opium Wars. All that whispering going on in quiet underground dens. No, sorry. So go on. Give the example with the telephone again.
Well, the idea is, don't think of it necessarily as decaying over time. Think of it as decaying in some sense related to the differences in context that each person, it's you know what it is, it's the goddamn old Sufi story about the elephant. Oh, I think it's a rope, and I think it's a wall, and oh, I feel the leg. You know, the blind men and the elephant. One of them grabs the tail and says it's like a pull cord, right? And the other one says the rope is like a thick hawse or a cable, right? The other one sees a big flapping ear and says, no, I assure you that this is like a great sail. And the other one is like, no, it's like an immovable wall, because each one is touching a different part of the elephant. So if you imagine that there is a sequence or a series of that for each person that looks at it, because of the very thing you mentioned, context, and context always alters meaning.
Exactly.
Then with each one of these, you can think of them as facets. And I don't know, I'm struggling to find a group of metaphors that doesn't, or a metaphor that doesn't introduce the aspect of time, which is difficult.
Which I find interesting.
Because to cross any distance in space requires us to spend time, right? So we talk about miles per hour, I mean, you could probably get into physics, but I'm too obtuse as regards that, right? But the notion is that we measure distance as time. It's miles per hour. Otherwise, there is no. Even with navigation, we had to develop clocks and things to figure out what the longitude was. Latitude was pretty easy to figure out, but we had to have accurate clocks to figure out longitude. So distance and time are very closely related, which means that for our minds, it's difficult to grasp the idea of a decay that is outside the context of time, but still somehow partakes of distance.
No, and I think
that distance being on the foundation of the different contexts. Sorry, didn't mean
I think that's a great point, actually. I think that's a fantastic point, because even looking at an artwork as opposed to a movie is going to go 90 minutes, but you can't look at a painting in no time. So there's no interpretation that exists outside of time. That can't happen.
Indeed. Indeed. However, the point that you were originally going at, which is a worthy one, is that no, I don't want to consider it from the perspective of something over time like this. The acorn becomes the oak. Yeah. Can I see the oak in the acorn? Can I see the acorn in the oak? I don't know. It doesn't matter for this application, because what we're talking about is an entirely different context. Yeah. And for that, the best metaphor that I've ever heard is degrees of arc, right? So you have a circle, 360 degrees. And depending on what angle you look at whatever the object is, depending upon that angle, the whatever it is that's at the center is going to appear different. So that's the whole idea of perspective, right? Which comes through our traditions of metaphor as, well, I have a different view on that, right? Well, my perspective is different. Well, I'm looking at a different angle of the surface. It's rotated to present its face to me, metaphorically speaking, somewhat differently.
Yeah.
But that's...
I'm going to have to try and sort these out, Oliver, because I can't hear you.
You take your time, brother.
Yeah. Speak if you wish. But this is
I am not entirely sure, but I think there is someone who is watching who is responsible. I will not name the person, but I think they're responsible for sending me the fucking motherload of English biscuits, whereby I learned that a biscuit is a cookie, and I discovered that the hobnob without chocolate is the finest biscuit ever produced by the British. Yes, so I want to let that person know that it changed my life. It changed my soul. It changed my heart. I experienced Britain through those biscuits.
I can't hear you now, but I think I know who that might be.
Oh, we don't have to go into all that. However, I will never forget.
Right. Can I hear you now? How damn annoying is this? I got a new computer like days ago, Oliver.
Don't pour whiskey on it. That's what I just did with mine. Yeah. Yeah. All $1,500. I'm like,
Well, I can barely hear you, so I need a couple more seconds. Oh, for fuck's sake. Let me get some headphones sorted out. Sorry, Oliver.
you could tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman's man. No time to talk. It's all right. It's okay. You can't look the other way. Yeah. I do not know what I am supposed to do here, ladies and gentlemen. I am glad, however, that Chris is not entirely naked. That makes my heart feel warm. Warm.
We have had a result. I found the ones with the right connector.
Luddite low-tech will always serve you well. How many radical feminists does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1. And it's not funny. That's the only joke I know. All right, can you hear me? La 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 la. La la.
Oh my god, I think I can.
La la la.
Let's put them in the right way round. Hello, Oliver?
Hello.
Well, it's mono, I'll be honest with you. One of them isn't working, but it's better than nothing. That's a lot better. I apologise, people, but it's absolutely pissing down, which is always good. So where were we? What were you talking about? How many feminists?
We were talking about the multifaceted, multivalent nature of meaning itself, old son.
There you go. It's funny you say it in that way. I've been a bit obsessed with black holes, and my knowledge of that area.
Howl. Yes, go on. Sorry.
We can both play that game if you want.
No, you'll win. You will win. I'm sorry.
And of course, the first thing you hear is the lack of poetics in that kind of academia. I mean, Einstein, for instance, he realized that space and time were connected. So he called it space-time. No, you need to make more effort. You had such an opportunity there to invent a word that meant the connection of space and time.
Right. You're like, you left the fucking patent office to do nothing but come up with the theory of relativity, you fuck. It should have been a poem.
It's no, I mean it. I absolutely mean it. Fucking space time. I mean, someone might be able to tell me whether in the original Austrian, is it? I assume he's Austrian. I don't know much about.
I can't remember.
No. Oh look, these are we're the only channel on the internet. We call these they're members. We don't get rid of them. Hello, people. Nice to see you. They once said that they once said in their advert, no whores, and half of my audience said, nah, not interested.
Bugger all.
Yeah, there's nothing there for me. Okay, so all right, let's get back to this. So I think the point is that I think I'm trying to pin it down to, and maybe that's not a good thing in a debate, but when we talk about context is everything when it comes to what a language unit, a sign or a symbol, what that means. It means it within the context in which it's consumed. So I think that's fair enough. But what I mean is not like the building, I mean the person. Because your life experiences are different to mine and you're a different person. we watch the same film, but it means completely different things to us. I mean, to make a crude example, let's assume the main character is a bricklayer. My old man was a bricklayer, so I've got all that father stuff going on.
I prefer hard carriers.
No, that's bottom of the line. I've done that. I'll tell you.
Sorry, that's out of a Roald Dahl story. The Fingersmith was a hod carrier. But go on.
Do you know what hod carrier is? Do you have them in?
Isn't like a pole with a flat thing on top of it, and you carry either mortar or bricks themselves, right?
You carry bricks in it, yeah.
Bricks. Okay.
But when I needed work badly, I had a drug habit to pay for, and after about 10 years of robbing and stealing and scamming and blagging, I had this amazing idea to work. I thought, hang on a minute, hang on, I've missed a trick here. Get a job. And so I said to a mate, like, I turned up like 8 stone, like, hello, any work going? And he went, well, there's always odd carrying available. And he was like looking at, I weighed about 8 stone. I think that's probably about, I don't know, 60 kilograms. I was a whisper of a man.
A stone is, I had to look this up because y'all are fucking addlepated, but I think it's 14 pounds. So that's 8 times 14. So 80. And what's 4 times 8? Is it?
But you introduced pounds into the equation. I was converting to kilos.
Oh, that's all. See, I can't use the words on YouTube to describe what I think of the metric system. But yeah,
there's a reason it's called the Weights and Measures Act. There's a good example of meaning there. Anyway, he said he was looking at me a little bit like, I they're quite heavy, those bricks. Now, a normal odd carrier will get about 30, 40 bricks in one of those things. And it's literally the corner of a box. It's one corner of a
that's right. It's literally 3 planes that to come.
And these blokes, right, they've done it so long, they just put the odd down and they sort of throw the bricks in there and they like they're playing Tetris. And I'm sort of just going, fuck. And then they sort of just on their shoulder, up the ladder, on the palm of their hand, push it up to the bloke on top. I got about 6 bricks in it. It's like a clown spinning.
Right. That's why you do not fight with them in bars. No.
Yeah, I didn't even get up the ladder. I just went, nah. I said, thanks for offering. Thanks for the yeah. No. Once I trod on that bottom thing, I was.
Yeah, I explained that the brief time that I worked as a framer in carpentry, and after about 6 weeks of that, and I was like, the heaviest thing I ever lifted was her purse and my dick. I'm not going anywhere near this shit. Yeah.
What jobs have you had in your life?
Now we're getting deep into meaning. In high school, I worked briefly in what was a food truck before there were food trucks, which meant just a dirty van at like a carnival,
rotten.
After I dropped out of high school and left home, I worked in a Chick-fil-A, which will be meaningful only to our American listeners.
No,
and I'm here to tell you, they do use MSG. However, they use peanut oil. I was there. What else? I worked as a bar back in bars and nightclubs. And from there, I worked at the door. I worked in security, and I worked as a bouncer.
Hang on. Whoa. Well, we got to the interesting one. You've worked doors in bars.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
I'm not big enough. This is the United States. This is the United States.
You're armed, are you?
No. They put me. Well, I mean, we're not going into that, but I was smarter. So when they got thrown out and they changed their clothes, but they still had the same shoes on because they might have had different clothes in the car, that kind of thing. Spotting fake IDs. Oh, he says pseudo-intellectual battle.
I know, it's good,
That's so charming. That's so charming. We already gave him the plug for not wanting to fight the hod carrier in the bar. What's he crying about? Or she. Jesus Christ, you're covered in naked XYZ cheap sex. So they put me at the door because I paid attention, and the tricks didn't get by me as much. But I was the kind of person who had to tell people to leave, and they would just say no.
That's your ladder. That's your, not as in Jacob's, but as in my what? That nearly took me ear off, that one. Hello, Dawn Browning. Oh, it's not Dawn Browning. Someone said Dawn of the Sex Bots. Dawn Browning does rather like you, though, Oliver.
Donnie's cool, man. And you're the one who called her field marshal. So, yeah.
Yeah, but we fell out. I got into a bit of trouble. I started injecting diazepam, and I was falling asleep midstream and things. And no, really, it's awful. I've left the video up. I was told by a viewer, I was doing a stream once, and someone said, "Yeah, we remember you fell asleep." And I was like, "No, I didn't." They went, "Yeah," and of course, then they sent me it, and I'm on the stream going, and just go down. It's awful.
Well, you just have to be ready for the conversations to kind of have the bottom drop out of them. But you know, if we're all citizens of the world, we've seen it before.
Yeah, well, I did lose about half my subscribers, but Dawn, I don't want to. She's had. I don't want to say too much because it's not my place, but she's had relations with people with similar problems, and
doesn't want it. Yeah, nope.
Wasn't pleasant for her.
That's all fair. I'm here for conversation, and yours is good.
Yeah, that's very kind of you, Oliver. Arklow says, "I'm out of my depth here, lads." Well, come on, Arklow, you've lifted some bricks. But when I think about meaning, it always starts turning into thinking about how I value things. Well, that's you've misproved your first point there, Arklow. Nice one on the Lady Godiva, but that's quite an interesting point, because that's really at the heart of what I'm asking, Oliver. Because if you're a writer, if you're an author, and when I say writer, I mean in the general sense, like painter, screenwriter, director, anyone who...
I'm going to give you this for free. Bruno said poets, painters, and philosophers are one, because they all bring the image down to where we can experience it. Upstream of all of those artistic expressions is the image itself. But go on.
Okay, yeah, there you go, perfect. So in terms, it's a good call actually, Arklow. So in terms of my position, let's take my book. I have fucking put so much time into it and so much effort, but do I really have much control over what it means?
Yeah, no.
No, exactly.
No.
And so why do, I mean, there is an upside to this, because for me, when I see a film or read a book, well, call them Bruno's objects. When I'm consuming one of Bruno's objects, the higher quality ones are the ones that don't give me the full story. The ones that leave, there's information missing. Because if you give me everything, it's just a report. I don't want to consume. I don't want to passively consume a film. I don't want to sit there and be told what it means.
Right, but if there's a mystery,
well, if it doesn't make sense, unless I actively engage in writing, unless I actively engage in filling in the gaps with my own experiences, my own understanding, my own consciousness, my own unconscious. And then it's going to affect me on a more profound level, because it's about me. And that's narcissistic as fuck. But I think it's unavoidable.
I hope so, because if you don't care to be an interpreter of your own, if you're not even going to leave something behind that is close as we can get it, given all the constraints you're talking about and how meaning gets distorted or decays or whatever, if you're not even going to leave, to say nothing of leaving behind something that is uniquely your own, if you're not even going to try to see in a way that is uniquely your own, then, why bother? You know?
Sorry. Yeah, no, exactly. So, but what is that? What can, from both the reader and the writer's point of view, what is that? Because there we go back to those spaces I was talking about between the writer, the artwork, and the reader. And I think it's that distinction between passive consumption and being an artist as a reader.
Well, you're a Gen Xer like me, right?
I probably look a lot younger than I am. Sorry, I'm trying to plug this speaker back in. It's fuck it. Carry on.
I'm fucking 50. I'm probably older than you.
I am 50.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm coming up on 51, so.
Oh no, I'm just 50. How was 50 for you?
Yeah, fuck you, by the way. Yeah, you have more time.
Be older.
Yeah.
But come on, Oliver. When we were kids in England, anyway, 50-year-old men had flat caps and Macs and walking sticks. You know,
right, because they worked their asses off, right?
That's actually a very good point.
I have been a man of leisure, right, which has its own issues and problems. But I think to come back to your central point that matters. On the one hand, you have the aspects of whatever is presented as a work of art that has to do with what is uniquely individual. And then you have what is human, right? I think my old buddy Tim, who bit the dust, he used to always talk about maybe it was the Formio. I can't remember, but it was definitely something by Terence, the Roman playwright. And he would quote that, and I can't remember what the original Latin was, but the basic idea was, I am a man, and because I am a man, nothing of the human condition is foreign to me. And so on the one hand, you have what is unique and personal about you. And if you are Gen X, which is why I brought this up, then that is the thing that we're going to hold up and say, I am a unique and special snowflake. I am so special. I am so different. You know, I have a way of seeing things that has never been before and will never come again. And I've even said myself in the past, if I don't do what only I can do, it will never happen because only I can do it. Right. That is sort of the individualistic aspect. And right, like the right wing people come in and they're like, fuck you, you're not a special snowflake. Right. And they'll call it atomization or egotism and the rest. Right. And there's some value in that because the whole Gen X side of things took it too far. They did. On the other side of things, and this is what I think rescues any work of art, is the notion that there's something about it that I can relate to because it's fundamentally human. Those differences in context. I don't know. It's the hod carriers are going to be pissed at me, but I'm going to quote another Italian, and that's Pico della Mirandola, and he said that there is a concordia discourse, that beauty emerges out of, it comes from the reconciliation of two radically fucked up things that seem like they could never go together, and yet somehow there's a harmony in it, and you're like, holy shit, it works. Somehow they reconciled and rescued this total contradiction. And I've seen it in myself where you're like, man, that chick has too big a nose and it's the hottest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, right? Like there are ways, I guess a nose isn't perfect for this crowd, but you should take my point. And me in particular, I think the face should be a pedestal that displays a mighty nose. Women with fine ass noses. Anyway, sorry, this is getting personal.
You like it. Come on, son. You like a beak on a girl.
No, I like a fine fucking nose. Like, look at an ancient Gaul. They didn't have a little fucking pissant ski slope nose. They had a fucking nose, right? They should be able to smell what's around them. They should be able to sense what's there. Anyway, the idea is there's a concordia discourse. There's a bringing together of these elements that seem like they should never go together. And in some sense, successful art is that concordia discourse. It is the idea that this person has brought their own individual and arguably unique view of this thing that is universally human, so I can still read it, right? Like, I hate modern art where they hold up like a soiled pair of soggy and saggy diapers, and they say, this is filled with my own shit, witness my genius, right? What I love is when, no matter how much time has passed, how many cultures and years intervene between you and that thing that is represented, you can say, I recognize that it's not mine, but there is a Concordia discourse. They have brought that thing that is distant and inaccessible, that is really kind of alien to me, together with the thing that I myself can totally grok. I dig it. It's a natural human thing, and they answer this thing for me. It's like a Bronzino painting of the allegory of love, where you see that there's this beautiful, almost, it's like a young girl's face, and beautiful skin and golden locks and everything, and then you see that her hands are like this, but the right hand is on the left and the left is on the right, and it makes no sense. And behind her there's a serpent's tail with a scorpion sting, and you can see just barely that one of her feet is like a beast. And so it presents the face of this beautiful young woman, and yet the left hand, dexter and sinister, have been reversed, and there's a beast below, and it's a representation of fraud. So even though I'm looking across centuries at what this Baroque artist painted, that's supposed to show all the things that come with Venus and Eros, I can be like, damn, I've seen it in that face of the beautiful young woman painted however many hundreds of years ago, where the hands are transposed, and only if you're paying attention will you notice that the thumbs are on the wrong fucking side. I can see that across time, but I can remember standing there outside the nightclub in the parking lot at age 16 and seeing this woman telling me she didn't want to break up with her, and she started crying. And then I had my first realization, holy shit, they can just cry when they want to get me to do what they want to. Like, these are timeless. And so what you're talking about the individual differences relative to the things that continue and have a truth in them for all people, like Terrence, I'm a man, anything of the human condition is not going to be foreign to me, right? There is a way that they come together, I think.
Okay, so you think there is see, I don't agree. I don't know if I
Fight
I don't know
me.
It was weird when you were talking about how gorgeous she was and you didn't mention her nose. But so you think that the artist can actually communicate something to you that he's aware of, and that you're meeting somewhere in the middle. There's a signifier that the pair of you are agreeing on and saying, yeah, this means this.
You see what's happened to you? You've been ass raped by postmodernism. That's what's happened to you.
Without a doubt, but voluntarily. I was on my own screaming for it.
Like, give it to me. All right. It's more like
it was that or hod carrying. So,
you're like, I'll take the pomo ass rape.
And you're not the first person to say that, by the way.
No, I was there too. No, I dived into it, and there ain't no judgment as regards that here, man, because I've been there, and there is the left and postmodernism and all of these things over on the dark side. They're not just making it up. The more intelligent people among them, they're not just making up shit like the crap that the right is more generally exposed to. There are sophisticated people who are capable thinkers, as you well know, like Bart, right? And I don't endorse his lifestyle, like Derrida, right? Like, I'm not entirely endorsing these people, but they pointed out things so far as they went.
My man, really, Derrida. He's the one that he got in first while I was on my hands and knees. And you know, this is a really interesting point, because I feel like I've kind of given myself the job to save postmodernism from the left, because I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I'm the same with the Frankfurt School as well. And you can imagine that gets me lots of friends, But I think Adorno and Horkheimer's culture industry is probably the best analysis of modern culture out there. And I've read a few. And I think it's absurd to throw it all out because of lifestyles. I don't give a fuck what you're doing. When I picked up that book, I didn't also ask for an autobiography. I wanted to know what you had to say.
I don't give a shit what somebody like Foucault is actually into. I'm reading to see if there is something I can learn from it. Now,
exactly.
Coming from the other direction, I want to hammer that from a different direction. So let me introduce something relative to your point about, or relating to your point about Saussure and the idea of the signifier and the signified. For those people who are not familiar with this, and I don't blame any of you if you aren't, but the idea basically is that, well, they didn't go down this rabbit hole.
Blame you, amazing.
But
I'm one of them. I'm learning. I'm about to find out.
you know about this. You have the signifier and the signified, right? And the idea put forth by Saussure, and not just him, although he's most famous for it, and he was a brilliant fucker.
The book, The General Course in Linguistics by Ferdinand de Saussure, set this kind of 20th century semiotic, which sort of ended with post-structuralism, postmodernism off.
One half of it, the continental version of it, where semiotic is spelled, where they refer to it as semiology, and the other is Peirce and his infinite semiosis and the idea of a semiotic. So there are two main currents, but we don't have to get into that. The main thing is that with Saussure, he talked about the signifier and the signified, and the relationship between the two of them is always arbitrary. So for those people who don't know this, I know Chris does. And I say this, I've said this on my channel many times. Basically, it comes down to language, and we're not just getting off into like jerk off Ponce territory. It's actually a worthwhile thing to consider. If in Turkish you say "ağaç," it means tree. If in Latin you say arbor, it means tree. If in English we say tree, it means tree. But what this guy was hammering on is the fact that ağaç in Turkish has no necessary relationship with a tree. It's arbitrary. Arbor in Latin likewise has no necessary relationship with that which we call tree. And for us, we call it tree. So what did he determine from this? This idea that what we use to signify a thing is always arbitrary. But here's what I want to tell you, Chris. That holds for language. But let me come at it from a different direction, which is in the domain of my own research. I believe that writing comes before speech. And we don't have to get way into it, but and it requires a more broad definition of language. The reason that anybody would go, what the fuck are you talking about? Is because we necessarily say that speech must come first because we define writing as that thing which captures speech. So how could it be writing if it doesn't capture speech? And because it needs to capture speech, speech must have come first. But I take a broader view of writing, which is things that integrate human behavior, and they do so in ways that are non-kinetic, right? They stay, they're fixed, right? And they're relatively lasting. And so the best example I can give you of that is a track. If I say the word wolf, it's arbitrary, right? Because like an old French girlfriend of mine got me to recite la lune, le loup, right? The moon, the wolf, right? They'll call it loup, right? Lupine. He had a lupine aspect, right? We have different words for wolf. But the thing is that once upon a time, And necessarily before we had any fucking speech. Because when we were still not even hominids, but we were fucking hominins. When we were like half-ass bipedal, before any of this fucking forebrain had evolved, and certainly before we developed spoken language. You can argue about whether or not Neanderthals had a hyoid bone. Don't give a shit, because this goes all the way back. If you can read the signs of an animal in your environment, you are more likely to get food and not become food. And what is the first narrative? What could be the first narrative earlier than reading a sequential and aligned set of animal tracks in order, just like a fucking text? Now, here's what I want to get to you about with this idea of arbitrary signification versus non-arbitrary. You can say wolf all you want, but if you look at a goddamn wolf track, it doesn't say wolf generally. It says wolf, and it says it in a way that before the emergence of humans cannot be questioned. Now, they'll talk about like Hermes stealing the cattle of Apollo and faking his tracks, but we can leave that aside. Once upon a time, the track that was left in the ground was what Charles Sanders Peirce called an index, which is to say a trace. It pointed specifically to the presence of the specific thing in the specific place. And it's not just the category wolf that you would have linguistically. It's a specific wolf.
But it can be duplicated by an opposing tribe who want to trap you.
That's why I said with the emergence of humans.
Right.
But prior to that, we read it in a sequence. And it's much harder to lie when you have it as scent as well, which is another thing we certainly don't have time to get into. Here's what I'm trying to get across. If you're following a wolf that has a lame paw, you're not just looking at one wolf. As you read that set of tracks, it's this wolf. There's nothing arbitrary about it. It's not fungible. It can't be interchanged with another wolf. Yes, it has the category of wolf, and this is why I brought up the thing about olfactory communication and scent, because they see the visible trail, but they also smell it, which means actual molecules of the shit go up into their nose and get read by the hypothalamus. And when you've got dogs and other things, they don't just know that it's a fucking wolf. They know whether it's male or female, whether it's young or old, what it's been eating, and likely what its reproductive status is and what its health is.
According to a certain context. Because, for instance, if it rains, let's assume that wolf has walked. A lame wolf has walked. Back legs fucked. So they know there's something there worth attacking because it's lame. But if it rains and they don't know that, those tracks are going to be altered. They're going to be changed, aren't they? The rain's going to affect them. So they're going to have to interpret it in a different context.
The hunters or the other animals?
Well, whoever. But in this example, I'd say the hunters, because I'm talking about humans and writing.
Right, but I want to hammer the point that that even before you would call them humans, they would have to have been doing this. Now,
I don't understand the relevance of that, though, because you're saying, so outside of what we call humans, it was different.
Outside and before what we call humans, there was writing on the ground, which was the first writing surface. And so it necessarily must have preceded speech. And now take a look at what happens when you're out in the wild and you're a hunter. And people who followed me on my channel have heard this kind of shit before, because I've talked about it many times, but bear with me. If you're out there hunting, we focus on, it's just like, as I've said many times before on my channel, so forgive me if anyone joined and has heard this before. But men will be like, this is what I am trying to tell you, bitch. Why are you not listening to me? I am trying to tell you words that have specific meaning, that we must pay attention to. Are you not listening to me? And they're looking at you going, why are you talking so nasty to me? Right? You could say, I love you. And they'd be like, why do you talk to me that way? And you're like, I just said I love you. And they're like, but it's how you said it to me. right? The emotional content of the expression, right? That's why women will be like next to each other and they'll in speech, they'll be like, oh yeah, oh love, I know, oh yes, it's not a problem, right?
Yeah, but if you wrote that in blood on a mirror with massive, like, psychotic strokes, it's writing then, it's not speech. And when she comes home and sees it and it's all dripping, and she says, "Why the fuck have you done that?" And you go, "I said I love you. Come on, I love you."
Right, but
That's
what I'm trying to say is that the males focus upon an accuracy in speech, and we are concerned even when arguing with women about what the word means, and we will even tell the woman over and over again in frustration, this is what I'm trying to say to you, why can you not hear my fucking words? And they're like, why are you talking to me this way? Because they're not paying attention to the semantic content, they're paying attention to the emotional content. And so human beings from their earliest days have evolved, males have evolved to read the signs in their environment while they hunt. If they read the track wrong, or they read the spot where the deer rubbed its antlers on the bark and denuded the tree of bark wrong, if they can't tell the difference between fucking rabbit scat and bear scat, they're fucked. Not only will they not eat, they'll get eaten. Whereas women have children around them, they're raising them, and in the wild, I imagine that they were much less liable to just fucking cry, but still, they've got huge plumes of scent coming off of the baby as they shit themselves because they're incontinent. So the women are gathered together with their little straw skirts and they're fucking breaking the back of lizards and throwing them in the basket and gathering berries. And they kind of sing to each other to indicate that everything's okay. Oh, nice necklace, right? They indicate their emotional state through a song, which is why when you see them meet with each other, they just start to sing with you. Oh, hello, Linda. It's so good to see you. And Linda talks like this too. And what's most important is not the semantic phrase. It's the fact that we're all singing at the same time and we're happy. Whereas men will be like, did you read the track? Are you sure that you saw it?
That man then didn't.
What man when?
Just then.
No, I was talking about women singing to each other.
But we're men talking, but you done it like a woman would.
Well, yeah, there are exceptions. And because I am exceptional, I can step outside of my own range and mock the other types because I have some consciousness of them. But the general way, unless all men, exceptional or not, when you catch them at their best time, they have a mocking voice of women. The thing that I think should be on every man's tombstone, other than their portrait, their name, and the dates of their life, should be a little recording of them making fun of women bitching at them. Because the most macho men I've ever heard can always do, they can do the best mimicking of this.
I'm getting the feeling you didn't have such a pleasant postmodern arse raping. The fact that this has become about gender and language, which I'm absolutely amazing area to go down. Interestingly, Stephen Campbell said, does that Cambodian bandana hide the stiffy you're getting from being able to talk about semiotics and the meaning behind images and symbols? Fuck you, Stephen. Unfortunately, no, but I sorted it out before the stream started. Plastic
Homo thirsty.
There you go. One more. Plastic African says, Ulster Kundera Updike. What book you want to know? Lord knows. Maybe Semiogogue can help you with that one. That's gone.
I've never read any of the three, actually. No, actually, I had a Turkish girlfriend who bought me a Paul Auster book, and I never read it. It's still on the damn shelf with her little...
I think I read The Unbearable Lightness of Being, the bit on the back, so that I could tell girls that I'd read it, and I knew a little bit about it, but which is what I've done with most books. One more, I think. Incredible that it went gendered though. That there's some real passion there. Hello, Alan. Good to see you, son. So there's have you read Rousseau's essay on the origin of languages? Oh, your mic's off, mate. Your microphone. Your microphone's
Oh,
off.
sorry. Yeah, what did he say? Because I'm trying not to read him.
Well, you try not to. Like, you've got the book in your hand. It's like,
No,
well,
I'm just not gonna.
It's just there's a bit obviously, as I'm sure you probably know. Sure, you probably doesn't really count, does it? I'm giving and taking, but Socrates called writing the danger supplement to language, the danger supplement. But why did he?
Because it would give well, go on.
Well, it threatens the idea of presence. It threatens the idea of the primacy.
Here come Derrida. Give it to me, Daddy. Talk about the presence.
I'm the presence here. You're the absence. That's how this has turned out. You started taking the piss out of women.
No, I didn't. I was attempting to point out that the focus of all of this is that men are particularly concerned with the specifics and the things that can be confirmed. Because they will get you killed if you don't pay attention to them. Yeah. Whereas women, and you will see that in the specialized language that men in their fields of study use among themselves and transmit to women later in our culture when they all believed that they could come do it. When I studied English bookbinding, traditional English bookbinding, from a person who was raised in Britain and learned from Arthur Johnson, I learned
service.
Absolutely. That's when I learned about tea. She came in one day and said, "Your tea. How do you take your tea?" And I said, "What? What?" Anyway, that's the first time I had tea, and it was properly prepared. And I said, "What is this, like Twinings?" And she was like,
"Yeah, steady on."
Anyway, I learned that there was a rounder and a backer and a rounding hammer and a lying press and a sewing press. There are specific terms. You will hear it from a mechanic. You will hear it from someone who is a carpenter. They'll talk about a soffit, and they'll talk about eaves.
They're still arbitrary, Oliver. They don't mean anything.
That's not my point.
Okay.
My point is that we are concerned with specificity that can mean life and death. And you can say, and with some justification, that when it arrives at the point of language, all the designators are arbitrary. But at their core, among men, with their hunting parties and later their war parties, it wasn't arbitrary. Is that a wolf track on the ground? How big is the wolf? How recently was he here? This is a fact. There's even, and I cited it in one of my papers, there was the master of the hunt in the period of Elizabeth. And of course, it existed earlier, Elizabeth I. And the master of the hunt would carry a horn for what were called fumets. And fumets was shit that actually came out of the ass of the actual animal that you were trying to land. There's nothing arbitrary about that. You can tell what it ate, how recently it ate, how old the shit was, and they would study it. These are signs that are not arbitrary. So while you have a superficial layer of arbitrariness that comes with all spoken language, my view is that deeper than that and older than that, because it extends past the point that humans appeared, if you're looking backwards into history, there was a kind of reading, not speech. Look, if I come up to you like this, you can read that. That's not arbitrary. If I say this, well, you could say, well, rhetorically it means, wait a moment, everyone, wait a moment, wait a moment, wait a moment. But it's your hands physically coming up to stop someone's approach. These are not arbitrary.
But when my friends do that, I don't go like that. You know, when a friend goes to me, you know, I know he's not going to hit me. It's the exact same gesture as a bloke in a boozer doing it to me after 6 pints. It's exactly the same.
You're introducing the need for interpretation.
I'm introducing context.
Right, which is the need for interpretation in a given context.
Yeah.
and you're conflating it with arbitrariness. Yes, everything requires interpretation. No, not everything is arbitrary. There is a deeper level of meaning that isn't just infinite semiosis where like when I have, I've taken 3 hits of acid, smoked a joint, and I'm chilling out, and I'm like, in my fingernail, there's another universe, and in that universe, that person is looking at his fingernail, right? There's a level of experience that doesn't unfold in front of you infinitely.
So this is the bit you were talking about when we were talking about art, and I was talking about those gaps, and you said words to the effect of, there's something, when you were talking about looking at old paintings, the girl with and that. So you think there's something deep, the word you used just a minute ago, deeper, below language or sublinguistic, that we still communicate with. Those things are still part of our communicative world.
Absolutely. And scent is one of the biggest one of them. And to come back around so that you don't think I'm just attacking women are the ones who will still be like, yeah, I met him and there just wasn't chemistry.
Yeah.
You know what they mean by that? They mean olfactory communication.
Yeah.
They will immediately know that this guy, they won't be able perhaps to articulate it in words, but they'll be like, he smells fucked up, like he's psychotic. And it won't even necessarily rise up to the level of their conscious awareness, but they are the ones who focus on things like the color of your cheeks. They're the ones who will focus on the tone of your voice. They're the ones who will focus on scent. If a woman really loves you, she'll buy you soap, right? Nicely scented soap. Not to say you need to wash, but because she wants to take a role in how it is that you appear on that level. They're much more subtle in that respect, which is why very often they can see more distinctions in color than we can.
Let me give you an example. There's quite a flashy perfume brand in the UK. I think they're American, called Le Labo. And they brought out a scent called Santal 33. I think that's what it is. If Willow's in the chat, he'll be able to correct me.
Masons.
For about 3 years, it was everywhere. That was the scent to get. And living in Soho, they'd spray this stuff in the walk-ins of like restaurants and bars, and that was the cool scent. If you could get hold of some, because they limited it for the marketing, they didn't want everyone to have it. They wanted people to turn up to Selfridges and this place and that place. Have you got Santal 33? Have you got Santal? Okay, and so that smell, Santal 33, stayed the same. But then it was overkill, because they did manage to stock it in every stock. So the marketing worked. Everyone managed to get their Santal 33. And when I turned up at the Dean Street Townhouse with my solid perfume, quickly before I go in, couple of rubs, to meet this bird who worked for Condé Nast, and I've gone in there, and she went, oh, Santal 33, really? Same smell. Fuck off. Yeah, it was really humiliating. Really humiliating. First thing she said, Santal 33, really? I was like, but the same scent that 2 years previous, she'd have gone, wow, oh, Le Labo. That's the same smell.
You're superficial, dude. They don't give a shit. They don't care about those things. But those are the kinds of things they care about that they could explain to you.
The reason I'm telling you is that it's a smell.
But it's not your smell.
But the same smell meant something else. It changed through time.
Absolutely. Let me approach it this way for you then. There are certain women that if they smell good, you kind of really don't give a shit what they look like. Or it matters much, much less. A woman who smells really good.
Yeah, but what's good though? That's what I mean. Because
absolutely, that's context dependent, but it's not arbitrary. Context dependent isn't always arbitrary.
Okay.
Likewise, you could say that a woman who if she smells good, you're going to be inclined to make time for her. And I don't mean what she fucking sprays on herself. That's for the people who are still out here. Their shit's half broken. They've, like the right-wing people would say that it has to do with seed oils or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what you actually smell like when it's been a fuck party for like 3 hours and her eyes are totally fucking dilated. And you can feel all kinds of crazy fucking vaginal muscles doing things that indicate she loves you, right? In the sex act. That's not based on what you sprayed on yourself. If it does or doesn't happen, it's going to be based on what you really smell like. And that's going to be based on all kinds of things that, yes, are context dependent insofar as they depend on two people. You might think she smells great. I might be thinking, that sweat's a little too fucking sickly sweet. She's pre-diabetic. You know, there's no way that shit is going to work with me, right?
Do you know, Oliver, at a party?
Well, that's if you bring...
Mate, she's pre-diabetic. Don't go near her.
If you have ever smelled diabetic sweat in lovemaking... Anyway, the point is... the point is that it's context dependent, but it is not arbitrary.
Okay, so this is really, you can have it. This is really the nub, I think, because it keeps coming back. And I mean, I'm really into this point here because I might learn something because I haven't been here. Okay, I'm lying, of course, but it's nice to humor you. So context dependent doesn't necessarily mean an arbitrary relation between signifier and signified. And have you got an example of that isn't pre-human?
Yeah, sure. Take a look at a set of scissors, right? How scissors work, right? If they got long handles instead of rings, you use them for fucking trimming bushes, right? If they've got the little rings that you put your fingers through, right? And you snip like this, well, it depends. If you see them next to a comb, that probably means a barber. But if you see them next to a spool of thread, that probably means tailoring and sewing.
No, okay.
So context alters the meaning, but the meaning is not arbitrary because this shit cuts.
Okay, but that's function. That's not meaning. Let's take the barber's scissors. Let's take the barber's scissors and the comb, right? And you just said that a pair of barber's scissors next to a comb means barber. But let's put them in formaldehyde in the middle of a Christmas tree in Times Square. Now, the context has changed dramatically. I don't think too many people are thinking barber when they look at that.
No, they'd be thinking first year art school. Yeah. Tangerine amoeba, apartheid 3, right? The tampon in the teacup.
I've seen it so many times. No, the red lipstick and I ain't playing until you look like a clown. Yeah, but you are playing. You're doing it right now. Okay, so yeah, I'm not buying that. I think that's function, not meaning. Because when we move that to an artistic, when we take the
how does function differ from meaning?
Okay, how does function differ from meaning?
Think about an emotion. Emotion will...
Hang on, I'll answer your question. You can kill someone. You can stick a sword through someone, and they're dead. But you know the function of the sword and what the act that you performed with the sword, they're different things. I'm asking you. I'm not saying outright because I'm investigating this.
You're interrogating me. You're interrogating this topic.
Fuck off! You just said I smelled pre-diabetic when I was being arse raped by Francis Fukuyama, telling me about the end of history.
I didn't. I have not said anything, and I am on your channel as a representation of my respect and goodwill. Right.
There you go.
So, but the point is that function and meaning go together, right? Yes. I loved art school. I didn't go. I just sniped the women, but yeah.
No, I done 7 years and sniped the women. Yeah.
And sniped the women.
It was amazing.
The emotion goes with the function. Think about revulsion.
Yeah, but
What's that supposed to do? It's a function, but it has a meaning. The thing is disgusting.
Okay,
the revulsion is to get me away from it.
But if we make a movie of that, if we make a movie of a murder, we make a film of a murder, and it's acted, but it's identical. It's largely identical to what would happen.
You are so Gen X.
Yeah, but you can use that as many times as you want. But
no, I'm Gen X too, right? So I'm not giving you. I mean, I'm there too, but I found my way out of the labyrinth. There's a beautiful old image.
So patronizing. I used to be an addict too, but there's a way out. Trust me.
No,
the first thing you got to do is admit you've got a problem.
Brother, have you heard the good news? I'm here to tell you the good news, brother. And that is that there is non-arbitrary meaning, and that there is north, and that you can determine direction. It will be dependent upon context, but it will not always be arbitrary. Basically, what I'm telling you is in the midst of language, you can still trust your nose.
No, not the meaning. I'm not talking about the meaning here in the instance of north, for instance. It's not the meaning that's arbitrary. It's the relationship between the signifier and the signified that's arbitrary. Because north, as you said in your own example, when you were talking about Saussure, north in a different language is nord. And in another language, it might be krrr. So it's all pointing to magnetic north, or just whatever it is, 30 degrees south or whatever. But the relationship between the signifier and the signified is arbitrary. And what speech actually
in spoken language, which is not the whole of signification. And here we come around to Roland Barthes, who fucked up. I loved a lot of his stuff, and in particular his whole thing on what's it called? A Lover's Discourse is fucking brilliant. It's a brilliant work, and meta levels to its brilliance. But he came along and he said that increasingly we have to propose this idea of a translinguistics. He rejects the idea of Saussure that semiology should be the umbrella under which this particular instance of language appears. And he says that language must be elevated as the translinguistics because that is really the governing metaphor for how human beings understand. And so what I'm trying to do is reach through the fucking darkness and chaos to you to say that there is a way, brother. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, which is not just the arbitrariness of language. Because as I said to you, this means incoming violence. Yes, it's context dependent, but it's not arbitrary. Your friend who does it is still signifying I am showing you potential violence. In a way, here, take it from this direction. If I go like this, whether joking or not, even if you're Korean and speak another fucking language, or French.
I get that, but listen. Assuming that I'd fucked that bloke's missus the night before, and then he does it, the meaning's completely different.
Context dependent, but it's not arbitrary. And my point here, as I said, is that spoken language is not the only form of signification.
Yeah, but okay, so what if the fella's got a weapon that I don't know exists? And to prepare that weapon, he's got it up his sleeve. He has to put his hand straight down by his side so that it goes down his sleeve and into his hand. And he comes up to me and his hand goes down by his side. I don't know he's about to chiv me.
Actually, you do. From everything you're telling me, you recognize that as a possibility.
Fuck off. No, but I just invented that. But
right,
I just invented that.
Because you've seen it. Yeah.
No, I haven't actually. I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I have. A train station in Romania. Yeah.
Okay, hang on. So we are at a point where I am stuck, which I want to be. That because otherwise it's pointless. I don't want to sit here agreeing. That's dull as fuck.
Fight me. It's good, and it's also a good conversation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out. Because what a lot of people said against this is that symbols are different to signs because the relationship between the signifier and the signified isn't arbitrary. And the classic example they use is justice. Like above the Old Bailey, the biggest court in England is, the
blindfold scale sword. Yeah.
There you go. And so that's not arbitrary, but it is. That is, symbols. It's a myth, I think.
Right. Who knows that in our culture, pointing the sword down means that you don't want to use it, but you can if you have to. Who knows that blindfold means that you're blind to the station of those before you? Who knows that the scales mean not that the Chinese will pile silver into one side, but it means that justice will weigh the circumstances of each case blind to the status of each one before her. And that's what Peirce would have called a symbol, which is the idea of and in fact, all the linguistic units for Peirce would have been a symbol. But that's why you have to check out Peirce rather than just Saussure, because he had icon. Oh, sorry. So you know about icon, index, and symbol, right?
No, I wasn't. Sorry, carry on. I'll tell you.
Icon is like a painting of your face. If I look at the painting of your face, it's a representation of you. So there is some likelihood that if I see the picture of you and you, I can say, yeah, these things are the same, right? Index is a thing that points to, like index finger, index to indicate, right? That is the idea that it signals the presence of this other thing. And so for Peirce, the track of an animal on the ground would be an index, just like your thumbprint or your signature, right? Symbol is arbitrary because it has a cultural meaning that is associated with it. Icon has some relationship with the thing shown based on resemblance, and index is the presence of that thing in that place in that time, like a handprint, or like where in the caves of upper European Paleolithic Spain, they put their hand on the wall and blow red ochre around it to create outline, right? So there's more sophistication in the Peirce side of it. But to be fair to Saussure, who again I assert was fucking brilliant, he was focused specifically on language. And he recognized that semiology, which would be some broader science of signs, would be above it. But I submit to you with all respect and in good humor that you should at least consider the possibility that you might be in the same realm as Barthes, where he says that because linguistics is so dominant, that we must elevate it as the umbrella over all human signification, because that's really at the root of everything. And I argue that it comes from a different direction, that it's a very different thing. Like if you take a look at a tag done by a graffiti artist, he's going to intentionally do everything he can to make it illegible. But, or I should say, he's going to do everything he can in order to make it exceedingly difficult to imitate. And in the course of doing that, he will make it illegible because he wants to make it the mark that is only his mark, which would make it an index indicating his presence in that place and on that route, showing it's his fucking territory, just like an animal territorial sign, right? There are, or like a signature. If you do a signature, very commonly human being signatures, which are supposed to indicate most specifically their presence at that space and in that place and at that time, which is why you date it and you have fucking witnesses. It's not there for you to read it. If it was there for you to fucking read it, they wouldn't have to put your name printed underneath it. And that's why when you come to a bank to withdraw your money, hang on, let me finish this point very fast. When you go to a bank to withdraw your money, they may pull out a signature card to check your signature against the archetype, like your handprint or your fingerprint. Not to read it.
Yes, of course they are.
No, they're comparing it to the archetype. Your signature could be fucking illegible. They're confirming that it's actually you, which is non-arbitrary.
So it could be like a hieroglyph.
I don't understand.
Well, it could just be a shape, like most signatures tend to be. They lose the form of like letters.
Right, but they're each uniquely and individually their own.
But what this comes down to is a definition of what reading is, because they certainly see it.
That's a definition of what writing is.
Both.
Fair enough.
So they look at the signature and they it's a mark. They look at another one and they match them.
Right.
So they've read and compared.
No, they've read it in the sense that a policeman who takes your fingerprint off
agreed.
of right, which they didn't read it.
No, I right at the beginning of this, and you can watch it back. I talked about reading and writing in the general sense.
Right, that's fair.
And I talked about paintings. I said books, paintings. When I talk about this stuff, I usually use an example of a footprint as being writing. And interestingly, you talked about animal footprints. So there is a reading that goes on there. And when you go to that painting you looked at, that painting is just loads of tiny little marks. But it's a language. And you read it. Because if you didn't read it, how the fuck do you know what it meant to you? Which you elucidated, lovely story, loads of meaning, effervescent in meaning. But there's no words there, but you certainly read it.
Yes.
It's a painting.
But here we enter the realm of consensus and the ability to communicate something to others, which is where we have to find some sort of level. And that's the Saussure level, where they say that language is something bigger than the individual speech instance, right? Langue and parole, right?
Yep.
So I get that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the most important things for me anyway, I'm not going to speak for you. The most important things for me are the things that are most difficult to articulate in speech. And the desire to withdraw and find some way to formulate those things that are most pregnant with meaning in words is a way to almost bring them down and make them non-threatening, because now they've finally entered the form of words which I can share with someone else. But
would you sorry, go on.
Well, the last point is just that for me, that's the point at which the meaning is reduced to make it accessible to others.
So would you have preferred that painter with the girl to have written that for you?
Fuck no.
Why? Because you've just said that you would. That last bit you said, you want to reduce it to words so that you can communicate.
No,
it.
Just so I can tell you what the painting meant to me.
Wouldn't it be better to show the painting?
Absolutely. But I don't have that option right now. So I talked to you about it.
Hang on. I could have shown the painting, but then we get back to what we were talking about earlier about the different context between you and me. So you could say to me, go and have a look at that painting later, which I would have done anyway because it's interesting. It's not going to mean the same to me as it does to you, because my life experience, my memories, the context that is His Majesty Chris Dangerfield is different to Hod Carrier Semiogogue. So it's not going to mean the same thing.
Yes. And indeed, as I asserted quite clearly, it's my view that you're fucked if you think that whatever your work of art is going to continue on through time and space and send your message, because each different person who uses
that's what you value in art. And now
the aspect that
you think you can do it.
The aspects of it that they manage to capture that are timeless and partake of what I talked about with Terence, where he said, I'm a human being and therefore nothing in the human condition is alien to me. To that extent, aspects and parts of it survive and can be glimpsed, as though, to take a phrase from the bard, as through a mirror darkly, right? But the point, there's several things I'm saying. One, yes, generally it's a fucking shit show of interpretation and context. And that's why you will recall I didn't dismiss the Pomo people. Absolutely. I said they have a valuable contribution to make, and they have dug into this fact that the arbitrariness is insane. And that deep within the heart of any given thing that we have, that we think gives us meaning, we will generally find a polar pair of opposites like Derrida talked about, and we will find that the privileging of presence and speech over writing is in fact a falsehood in some sense, and it must be displaced or deconstructed, right? I recognize and acknowledge all of these things. But what I'm trying to tell you is that there is something deeper and older, which still is context dependent. I hate to have to do this, not for you, but generally for people. They cling to universalism. They want a thing that is true always and in every place. And so they say, well, I can put my money on the idea that there is a consistent meaning that will be conveyed over time, or I can put my money on the fact that it's all fucking arbitrary and crazy, and 99% of the time nobody will get it. Yeah, I know what I would bet on. I agree with you. It's all over the fucking place. It's context dependent and in many cases arbitrary. But what I'm telling you is that there's a deeper aspect, which really comes down to orientation, which we have to pair with disorientation. Orientation being like, I know where I'm going, who I am, what my direction is, what it's all about. I have a point of orientation, orient, east, where the sun rises, right? Versus total disorientation, which is the Gen X affliction, which is the idea that it's all ironic, bro, right? The idea that nothing really has meaning. There's nothing but thinking makes it so.
Yeah.
And last part. I'm known for not being terse.
You're the guest. You can talk as much as you want.
I appreciate that, and I don't want to, so I'm going to wrap this. But the point is that, yes, it's difficult. Yes, it will always be context dependent, no matter what you do. But there is some way in which we can orient beyond believing that everything is arbitrary. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's context dependent. You cannot apply universalism. You must bear in mind the context and analyze any given thing from that perspective. But that's a very different thing than saying it's all arbitrary.
Okay, let me posit this. How is meaning? Let's take a sentence. When I say a sentence to you, I give you 5 or 6 words. Now, as we know, I think you'd agree, those words don't mean anything alone. Dog doesn't, or let's take tree, because we've used that one in its Saussure's one. It doesn't describe a tree. What? Was that whiskey? Was that your post? You're muted.
Just a little bit of it left there. Go on.
No,
I was just trying to get the last.
I wanted you to stay muted. That's why I was telling you. Spearman Mellon says, "Hey Oliver, I'll address you, Oliver. I'm an Alabama native. Is it Alabama or I'm an Alabama native?
Alabama.
I'm an Alabama native who is close to your age, living in California. Got red pilled out here. Now have become very depressed. Yeah, that's part of that journey. Wondering about relocation to the South. Any advice?" That's from Spearman Milton. Thanks for the Ayrton Senna, Spearman. Very kind.
Come back, brother. Come back to the South. Return to your home. Leave Sodom and Gomorrah. Return to the South. Indulge in the barbecue. Come back to the place where they're like, "Are you kin? Are you kin to him?" Right. Come on back. That's all I'm saying is come on back, man. Come on back. I went out to California and I had to go there to, like Pinocchio had to go to the circus. But yeah, then I came home. Come on back, man.
I imagine that's good advice. I can't say for sure, but what I know
Maybe.
of California, not my cup of tea, not my cup of twinings. Where are we for time? No, I won't open this one up because we'll be here for hours and we've done 2. I think we got to an interesting point. I think I'll have some further thought there. I think it's interesting because I think you're approaching God. And I'll tell you why I think that's interesting, because that's what Descartes was defending when he was defending much the same as you. When Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," when Descartes held up binary oppositions and presence absence, it was in the Meditations, which had titles like God is perfect and does everything because you know this stuff. And that sort of, dare I say, fundamental constant It's all that black hole stuff I've been looking at. But this thing that you talk about that exists, sublinguistic, sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you hope it's there. And you're very eloquent apart from what that is. It's like a void in your explanation.
How about this?
Crack on.
If you're fucking a woman doggy style, are her weapons pointed towards you or away from you?
Well, it depends, because she might have sexually.
What? She's got a mouth on her back?
No, but she might have some STDs, and so she might that's a weapon. She might want to give me syphilis, which will send me mad and kill me.
All right,
kill me.
Let's.
Don't change the example. I've just proved my point.
I'm not changing the example. I'm just saying.
Okay, a woman without STDs is on all fours.
Just think about this. What can she bite, claw, or punch you with? And is it pointed towards you when you fuck her behind or away from you?
Well, she can claw
in an
me.
immediate sense.
She can hurt me with her feet. She can.
Which sexual posture is most likely to allow you to have your way with a female without being injured?
It's context dependent.
Well,
she might be unconscious.
You just took it elsewhere.
No, you pushed it elsewhere. I just
all right. Let's look at it like this. Assuming she's conscious, no, you just fucking, you're like, okay, you want to level up, motherfucker? I'll level up. You just took it into the Death Star.
No.
Let's assume that you've got a conscious female. Is she going to have an easier or harder time harming you if she's facing away from you or facing towards you?
It is context dependent.
Right, but all things being equal, generally speaking,
all things aren't equal, and this is your fundamental constant. This is your all things being equal. This is your God. This is the thing you hang on to. When you're fucking God on all fours, it's there for you.
I'm not. I don't. Let's just leave the religion out. Leave the religion out.
I will. It's not religion. It's not religion.
Okay. Here's the thing. Okay, let's take it from.
That example has failed 3 times, and you haven't acknowledged that.
Well, then correct me.
Well, I have.
I'm listening. I didn't get it.
Well, I have, because you said you're trying to explain to me that what position is a woman in where she's most yielded to you, where she's less of a threat to you, so that you can fuck her. And I said to you, it is context dependent, and gave you examples.
Okay, so look at which one's more likely.
Yeah, but it depends what the context is.
Let's switch. If you're lying on your back on the ground and a man is standing over you, are you more likely to catch a boot in the face than if you're standing up?
It depends on the context, because where's my weapon? That's not a good choice of words in that instance.
Yeah, you're very postmodern, because you're just trying to find.
That was funny twice, but you can't just keep saying you're pomo, because I'm actually post-stra. I'm actually post-stru, if you want to go there.
Fair enough.
If my gun is on the floor, I'm better off laying on my back. If the gun is over there, I'm better off.
If you don't have a gun?
Right. Well, again, so what you're saying is, if the context is different, that's what you're saying. If the context is different.
So I'm trying to get my head around because I'm trying to go for the throat of what it is you're saying, but it is constantly shifting. And it is based upon this idea that everything is constantly shifting and nothing can be taken as a general rule. Am I correct in understanding that what you're telling me is that nothing can be taken as more likely? Nothing can be taken as statistically more probable. Nothing is a general rule. Do I understand you correctly?
when it comes to meaning, yes. Hang on. Well, when it comes to meaning, that's where I am at the moment. I'm not religiously stuck on that. That's why I got you on. I'm up
Right.
for the debate, and that you've brought up so many fantastic points that I'll go away and look into, because if there's a few parts where
it's fair, and I'm not here to be a dick. I appreciate you having me on, so that none of this is you've called it a debate several times, but I just wanted to talk to you about this. So I'm not taking a different side. My thing is that for me, like, I've seen crazy eyes on a woman, and it doesn't matter what the context is. When I see crazy eyes, I know trouble is coming. I know trouble is coming. It might be the kind of trouble where I like the front end of it and fucking curse the back end of it in more ways than one, but I know trouble is coming. So you could tell me it's always context dependent. And here, maybe you could back up further and say, well, it's still context because that's your view. But I have seen to my own satisfaction that there are some things that are consistently signs to me. They're not arbitrary. I can orient based on them.
What if there was a woman who had those crazy eyes as some kind of physical affliction, and you're in a queue for a ticket, and it was good, I know, thanks, and she turns round and she goes, and you know what that means, don't you? Because you just told me, trouble is coming. But no, she's got a problem. She's got hay fever or something. And so what are you going to do? Knock her out? Because last time that happened, you got stabbed.
So this comes back around to, I think, what I was trying to touch on with the idea of universalism. Yes, it's possible that you can be wrong at any time. Yes, it's possible that that you entirely misunderstood. Absolutely. Nevertheless, the vast majority of the time, I'm not dealing with a woman that I saw in the ticket line. I'm dealing with a woman at a bar, or who I've met somewhere, and I've gone out on a date with her, and I see crazy eyes, and it means that she's going to fucking take my pet rabbit and drop it into a boiling pot of water.
Pros and cons. But taking this back to the creation of art, that's where the risk factor is kind of removed. The noble savage is kind of irrelevant, because we're now talking about communicating meaning rather than risk, rather than.
But think about a warning. Is there any more meaning, more archetypal, and more important coming down to actual survival than what we call a warning?
Right. I'd say no. Well, actually, I can't say for sure, but off the cuff, I'll say yes. However, before the 3-minute warning was widely understood in the UK, they said they put leaflets through the door during the Cold War.
What's the 3-minute warning?
I'll explain to you. In about 1982, middle of the Cold War, there was a massive UK government campaign, Protect and Survive. And they made a documentary and they put leaflets through everyone's door. And it was literally, when you hear the 3-minute warning, put your doors 30 degrees against the wall, paint them white, fill up your suitcases with your clothes, get some jam and peanut butter, maybe some water. Because there's a nuclear bomb coming. Have a look at it on YouTube, because it's all there.
You're as old as I am. Yeah. You remember nuclear threat.
I remember not sleeping for 5 years because, we're about to die. Now, Frankie Goes to Hollywood sampled it, and it's that bit in the beginning of Two Tribes, and it's from Protect and Survive, and he says, when you hear this sound, and it's the old World War II air raid siren, it goes, and it fucking haunts me, because I grew up with that stuff. I was told by teachers, well, we're 12 miles out of the centre of London as a crow flies, so after that bomb's dropped on Westminster, we're in this zone, which is just, your skin's going to be burnt off you by hot winds. Thanks, miss. Can we play in the fucking hell on 7? So that sound is a warning. That's telling me there's a nuclear attack coming. 100 years before that, play that sound to a load of school kids. Doesn't mean anything to them. They just, what's that noise? not the threat of a nuclear war, is it? So it's a warning to me. It's the biggest warning ever. We're about to enter a nuclear war. But 50, 100 years before, no. Because
we can look at different
relationship between the signifier and the signified is fucking arbitrary.
In that case.
Out of the park.
Absolutely, yes, in that case. But we have just talked about the fact that the symbol under Peirce's arrangement has an arbitrary relationship that's culturally determined, right?
Which is contextually determined. The symbol is a myth. The symbol is just...
Well, I would say all of them are contextually determined, but the symbol specifically is culturally determined and therefore arbitrary in some broad sense, like you're talking about with the air raid siren.
So it doesn't really distinguish itself from Caduceus' sign, does it?
Well, but that's only one of the group of three. We also have index and icon.
Okay.
So if you see a bear track on the trail that you regularly walk, now you know that you could run into a bear in a way that isn't arbitrary because there's a bear track there, which means that a bear would pass. Now you could do what you have done several times and suggest that a tribe could take a bear's paws and make the impressions on the ground.
Or your friend might have called you and said, I've just shot a bear. He's at the end of the blue track. And when you see the footprints, you go, oh, that's the bear he's talking about.
Maybe.
Same footprint, but different meaning. You'll like this one because I know that's very kind of you, Dawn Browning. What? Field Marshal Dawn Browning, hoit to that. Hello, you all. Sorry, let's start again. Sorry, Dawn. Semiogogue makes me nervous because he keeps threatening me. Hello, all you lovelies. I bet most of you will understand that I'm in my Field Marshal element right now. Wink. Love. I certainly know that, Dawn. Lovely to see you, and thanks for that bullseye. That's very kind. Much appreciated. And Moody Edge follows up with Baudrillard has nodded off. Yeah, he's not my man, believe me. I like him. Have you read Baudrillard's Cool Memories?
I have not.
Actually, a beautiful book. It's one for the toilet. Now, that sounds awful, but it's it's one for the bathroom, perhaps Americans would say. It's little, aphorisms, but some really lovely stuff in there. Dawn, thank you very much for that.
You know what I have in my bathroom?
Can you say hello to Dawn Browning? It'll mean the world to her.
I can say, absolutely. I'll say hello to Donnie. Donnie Browning! Hello! Absolutely.
There you go. Thank you.
She's mighty, man. She's mighty. I keep the Church Mice books by Graham Oakley in my toilet.
Okay. What have I got in my...
If you haven't read those, shame on you.
I didn't read a book voluntarily till I was about 16. I mean, I went to a British state school where they intentionally put you off reading. They give you Macbeth when you're 13. Like, what? Why have you done this? I can barely read as it is. Let's end the debate for now. 6 months or 48 emails later, let's come back and talk again. I did just want to briefly mention, I did look into some American linguists, Austin's speech act theory, and because he took on the post structuralists. Well, he tried to. He got his arse handed to him in a hi hat. But and that's to do with locution, interlocution, and perlocution. I think there's a great essay by Derrida called "Signature Event Context," which it talks about signatures, and it's beautiful because he quotes it, and then when he quotes it again, there's 2 sets of quotes around it. 4 pages later, there's like 8 sets of quotes around his signature. It's a bit of a what would the word be? It's a bit of a novelty, but he kind of just casts them off because they're not that bright. But I certainly have tried to look at opposing arguments, and I will look at this fella you've mentioned because I haven't been down that road at all. So if you can email me a couple of links to that would be great. But just before you go, A Lover's Discourse, what a beautiful beautiful book. That's my go-to Christmas present for ex-girlfriends. Weirdly, ex-girlfriends I'm still in contact with. You know,
I've given it to one woman, but yeah, and you know what's so depressing is none of them are sophisticated. At least for me thus far, none of them have been sophisticated enough to appreciate what a brilliant attempt that was. I would not have tackled it quite the same way. Like I wouldn't have quite so many references to Goethe or whatever, right? But
can you explain it to people so they?
Yeah, basically, it's hang on here. I'll give them a sample.
Okay, Roland Barthes. I'll just give you an intro before the sample. Roland Barthes is a French structuralist thinker, off of the back of Ferdinand de Saussure, who we've been talking about. He was Derrida, Julia Kristeva, and that lot. They were the post-structuralists. I was just giving a quick intro to Roland Barthes. He kind of made his name with Camera Lucinda and mythologies. And with mythologies, he took the structure of the sign, the signifier and the signified, but then moved it on another level to the myth. And that's also a book well worth reading. Roland Barthes' Mythologies. Mousecat's reading it at the moment, actually. But he also wrote this book that Oliver's going to tell you a little bit about.
Yes, absolutely brilliant book. Basically, he attempted to create, like, think of it like a tarot deck with each one of the gambits or circumstances that lovers can find themselves in relative to the erotic projection and identification, the transposing of opposites, all the weird things that you can get into in what is essentially an erotic play of images with the object of your desire. And he basically has different short, very, very little short essays. So absence, right? Absence, adorable, adorable, alteration. They're I'm just reading English words with a stupid French accent. But the point is,
fantastic job.
Fou, mad, right? So you've got absence, adorable, affirmation, alteration, anxiety, annulment. You've got waiting, to hide, pigeonholed, to circumscribe, heart, mad, festivity.
Each the expressions and engagements of love.
And each one of them is almost like a gambit in a chess game, indicating which roles are being played, where the uncertainty is, where the desire is, where the hot point is, the pain or whatever. So let me find a super small one.
And if I remember rightly, it's been a while, but doesn't he quote there's a meta story going on that philosophy is a lover's discourse. And in the margins, if I'm right, he's got the writers he's sort of quoting or referencing. So in the margin, it will sort of say like Goethe or Nietzsche or whoever.
Or Sartre, right. So
there's that other lovers discourse, apart from the sort of lovers discourse, the desiring couple. There's also the meta discourse,
the broader sense, which really is coming out of Christianity, and he would have acknowledged it as well, where the idea is that the soul of the believer is in a relationship of love with the beloved, with God. Like you can see with, for example, like the Psalms, many of which are very lovely poetic expressions of love, right? But it's the idea that the soul is the object of the love of the soul is God. And if we are hopeful and optimistic about manifestation and existence, then perhaps there is an answering love that comes from God towards the individual believer. So you have the idea of the troubadours, right, who could say that they were talking about their love for a particular woman, like Dante with Beatrice. But at the same time, it's considered a metaphor for the love of the individual for God. So yes, what you're talking about there is it carries the whole discourse of love beyond the simple interaction between two human beings. But what's so charming about his book and worthy of respect is that he's aware, because that's how he roll. He's aware of these multiple levels of interpretation and the simultaneity of these different sets of meaning. So here's one.
Did you see the bad taste in a bit of body language? Watch that back, people. You see a bad taste in Oliver's mouth when that last line. It literally goes, the multiplicity of meaning. Sorry, continue.
I prefer it straightforward, Governor. Catastrophe. So this one is a catastrophe. Violent crisis during which the subject, experiencing the amorous situation as a definitive impasse, a trap from which he can never escape, sees himself as doomed to total destruction. So here you have the heading, catastrophe, right? Then you have the summary, right? Violent crisis. The subject experiences this amorous situation. It's an impasse. He can never get out of it. He's doomed to total destruction. Anybody who's been in love, certainly as a teenager, has at least felt this once. In my case, because I mature slowly, I've probably felt it 600 times. But then he goes into a set of observations, many of them pulled from literature and famous authors of the past, and he attempts to illustrate these themes. I'm not going to go into that text, but I'll give you just the summary paragraph of just like a couple more. I got to find one that's a little bit more accessible.
It's all right. You got one? You got one?
Yeah, agony. The amorous subject, according to one contingency or another, feels swept away by the fear of a danger, an injury, an abandonment, a revulsion, a sentiment he expresses under the name of anxiety. So I realize you've got something you're about to say, so I'm not going to go into all of these. But if, like, when I was a young man, I decided that I wanted to understand all the ways in which I was fucking up in my relationships with women. And so I took one of my sketchbooks, which was a big one, and I wrote down all the relationships up until that point that I could remember that I had been in with women. And I attempted to give a quick little one-line summary of what happened. And they ended up being things like, she cheated on me, didn't tell me, right? Or then I would write, I cheated on her, didn't tell her. I cheated on her, did tell her. She cheated on me, did tell me, right? So, or I took her from her previous boyfriend, right? Or, wherever the gambit came from. And I attempted to pin them down as what I was repeating. Now, for me, this was rewarding because I found that usually I was 19 when I did this. So, forgive me, but I found that repeatedly I was creating arrangements where I was going after a woman that was the girlfriend of my best friend, which doesn't speak well of me.
The old unavailable mother there.
Indeed, because I had a mother and I had an older brother. So the older brother for me was the stand-in for the person who had been with the mother longer. And naturally, as a child, I would want to take the attention from the mother and would be driven to, because it's a question of survival for an infant. But at 19, I was like, holy shit, I'm doing this over and over again.
Oh, without a doubt. I've done about 20 rehab centers, and in one, I got called out for having, the therapist said that my relationship with my mother, and she said, and it's like it with a lot of addicts, is covert incest. Now, there's nothing sexual there, but because my father died when I was 16, she replaced him with me. And they explained to me how she actually benefited from my addiction because she housed me, clothed me, fed me, bought me drugs, scored for me, not every day, that would be ridiculous, but she had done. So her collusion with my addiction, she actually got something out of it. She got me sat on the sofa with her watching fucking antique
and not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Therefore, not requiring a reassessment of what she is.
Yeah. And not requiring another woman. And with the opiates kind of crushing my libido, she benefited from my addiction. That was quite hard to take. It was very difficult actually, and still is, because she still, some of them are very innocent, but she still makes certain references to me like she used to my father. Like if I'm at her house, which doesn't happen because I live in Cambodia, but when I lived in London, I'd go and visit her. The friends in my hometown would know I was there. The phone would ring and she'd go, hello, "Oh, you want to speak to his lordship?" And she used to say that about my father, and it's a fucking, cut it out, mum.
Doesn't quite fit, right?
It's kind of innocent, but you're twisting my melon, mum. A couple of something else about that lovers discourse that I like is Roland Barthes tended to write method. He talked about structuralism. He talks about textuality. He talked about his ideas about how meaning is made. The thing about a lover's discourse is it's almost like an example of how you can use those ideas when writing when making a piece of writing. So you're not reading about language and linguistics. You're reading a book.
That's actually a very good point, and an implicit one I hadn't really thought about, but it's absolutely true. He's citing, as I talked about before, works of literature. And so he's showing that simultaneously these are plot devices that will serve the writer well, but they will serve the writer well because they seem to be fundamental combinatoric possibilities of love.
Say textual. Just say it once.
No, because this book sings to you because there's something about the human experience, despite the fact that, for example, Barthes was gay, right? I'm not gay, but it speaks to me. You're not.
I don't know.
He was. And yet the nature of those experiences are so universal that we can see a truth in them, even though we're not gay. And they're echoed in literature as plot devices. And in fact, we can see the value in his art insofar as it actually has aspects that apply to us in terms of a universal and timeless human truth, which is what I was kind of aiming at earlier.
Yeah, that's still the bit that we're stuck on, but let's knock it on the head there because it's a good place to end it. A couple of donations I want to just acknowledge. Field Marshal Dawn Browning dropped an Ayrton Senna. Let me find that. Mousecat, I've got your one on the entropy as well, mate. So I did miss it at the time, but I've got it now. Dawn Browning, thank you for the other tenner. Ollie changed Master Ben's head, that's Dawn's other half, into Joe Biden's head on my Twitter profile pic. It looked like Joe was sniffing my hair. It's a little bit sensual.
Yeah, I'm not. Would you like me to find that? No, I won't do that. I won't show it to everyone. Yes. I don't know why I did that. It was some inside joke, but it was meant entirely with a pure heart. It was simply playing.
No, be aggressive. She'll love it. Say it was meant. It was meant to.
No. There will be no such aggression.
You've just lost 20 points. Thank you, Dawn. Brad Walsham. I don't recognise that name, but lovely. Thanks for the Lady Godiva. Dig what you two are doing here. Great conversation. You rascals. Thank you very much, Brad. A pleasure. Well, I think I can assume we can get another. Oh, hang on. Sorry, one more Mousecat's one. Sorry, I missed it at the time, Mousecat, but I don't think it was contextual. Dare I say it? I think it still makes sense now. I knew. I knew a woman that smelt like a sweet factory. Worked at Nabisco biscuits. Signifier for a boner. Well, there you go. But Mousecat, if you were to fuck her and then her husband come round your house and kick the shit out of you, next time you smelt those biscuits, your penis is going to retract like a kangaroo before a fight, even though the smell stayed the same. I've won this. I won. Okay, on that point, I won. Oliver,
you win.
No bollocks. No, you won. You won. Please send me a couple of links to that iconoclast index thing. I'd love to have a look at that. Like I said, the only opposition
Which
I've
one?
read. Purse.
Oh, icon index and yeah. Purse. Yeah. It's a pain in the ass to dig in, and Purse is coming from postmodernism and continental philosophy more broadly. I won't just call it POMO.
Structurally, I'll accept that.
You'll look at Purse and you'll be like, Jesus Christ, how is it possible for this man to discuss his ideas and have it be even more impenetrable than continental philosophy?
Oh, really? I didn't think you were going to say that.
Because he's an American. He was he was a total freakazoid. He was absolutely brilliant, but he's writing in the 19th century, and he comes from a background of formal logic and maths.
Yeah, that will be difficult.
But he comes into things like firstness, secondness, and thirdness, which refers to your distance from the immediacy of the sign. And he talks about icon, index, and symbol. He's very it's worth the trouble, but let me just tell you, it's trouble. And if you think, oh well, fuck all this, it's not a problem, right? It's a fucking problem. Reading him is labor. But yeah, I'll definitely shoot you some links.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's that. I haven't heard, unless I'm
well, Pierce is it's written where if you weren't familiar with it, you would think it was Pierce. Pierce.
Okay.
It's written Pierce.
Because I obviously haven't just stuck with my gang. You know, I've tried to deal with opposition. There was that Austin bloke and speech act theory. They really got into Derrida, and it was actually quite a good bit of sparring, but they were a little. They weren't up to the job, to be honest with you, and that's not just because I'm a fanboy of Derrida or anything. They just weren't up to the job. And the one essay he wrote, it's in a book called Limited Ink, and he dealt with them. But yeah, shall we? Stephen, I don't know. Did you just say maths plural, Oliver?
Yeah.
Good lad. Well done.
What's it to you?
Now, Stephen, did I read out your donation? Because you certainly made one, and I read it. I kept trying to keep it in mind. Oh, I missed John's. Another Lady Godiva. I could watch you both for weeks. That's all that time in the Navy, John. I've learned more in the last 2 hours than every moment of my schooling. Thank you. Please do this again soon. Lovely thing to say. Yeah, hoit to that, John. Thank you, man. Well, I think we will, Oliver. Should we sort of say, where are we now? Should we say about 6 months? Give us some time to sharpen our swords.
Absolutely. I'm also happy to have you on anytime. If you have some subject you want to discuss on my channel, we'll do it upright. But I'm happy to be back here, and yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, Dangerfield is always intentionally difficult.
Yeah, well, that's what
you have
do
to be
when you're trying to find the truth. You don't have a choice.
It's the burden you bear as a genius.
You can't go wrong with that. But there was another one from you, Stephen. So let me just get that. Sorry to keep you here, Oliver. But while I do this, but I like to show you my extensive grift because it's very good.
Yeah, I need to get mine on, man.
I just say I can't afford to stream every day unless you pay me, and I think that's fair enough. And my people are good. They like, okay, we want to stream every day. Here's some money.
I think my problem is I have to activate the super chats. So yeah.
Okay, I'm still a YouTube partner. It's amazing how I managed to get away with that. I've spoken to YouTube. I can talk to them. If I've got a problem, I can actually speak to YouTube, and they do talk to me. I mean, I did delete about 300 videos a while back when I
just a small detail. Yeah, it's just, just sort of kick some sand backwards in the cat box. Yes, never happened.
I really did that. Oh, Alan, sorry, I missed that one as well. That's a tradition. I want to thank, while I'm looking for Stephen's other one, I want to thank all the scrubs that got up really early, and it ain't even the weekend. I missed that one from you, Plastic African. Rabbit is Rich, Moon Palace, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Yeah, it's all just.
Yeah, that's a reference to Kundera and the rest of them.
I know The Unbearable Lightness of Being, but again, do you like David Foster Wallace at all, Oliver?
I don't know him.
You don't know David? Fuck you.
No, but let me just recover and rescue myself. I did read Great Apes and the Book of Dave, so I'm allowed to be your friend.
Well, that's the fellow I've been talking
I know. Which makes it all that much more impressive. Yes. I still imagine him as looking like a fucking Diane Arbus photo, but yeah.
You would not believe the amount of very hot, well, no, you would actually, the amount of absolutely beautiful women that just want him. They absolutely,
literature.
Yeah. He's got the intellectual chops, but to have ended up being able to talk to him about writing and also publishing, you know, and all that is, I'm very, very grateful, you know.
I'm grateful to him because he's the first person who ever mentioned the knowledge, which I had never heard about a London taxi driver.
Of course. Yeah. No, what an incredible story. Stephen, I think I did read out your previous donation. I think there's just one more came through that I probably missed. Here we go. Planet X, thank you, mate. 48 seems reasonable now. Good stream. I don't know what that means, Planet X. But
he's saying he's just crowing about the fact he's younger than both you and me.
Oh, so, there you go. Well done. Yeah, there you go.
Fuck him too.
No, 50's all right. I can. It's fucking hot out here, and if I wear a t-shirt, it gets wet. Whereas if I don't, because I've got my greatest fan, like my Apocalypse Now Cambodian dream above my head, it works like this. Oliver, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was 48 emails is an absolute record. It's been challenging. You got me to some places that I thought, oh my gosh, it's all about to unwind and I don't know who I am, which is what I want in life, because I don't want to be who I am now for the rest of my life. That's ridiculous. It's been fun. It's been excellent. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Down south, we say it's been real, honey, and it's been fun, but it ain't been real fun.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Sorry, that's just a good one when you have to say goodbye, you know.
Okay, yeah. Well, you know, it's been fun, it's been real, but it hasn't been real.
You fucking Brits fucked it all up. I feel like I don't know what a biscuit is, so I have the same problem, man. I have the same problem. And you also, you say different to instead of different from, which it just makes me want to fight all of you. I'm like, do you say, well, it's similar from. I find that it's similar from this. No, you don't say similar from. Therefore, why do you say different to? To is to go towards. So different.
English people, don't worry about him. He's proved he knows very little about language. So let him have his little moment in the sun at the end there. Yes, thank you, Mousecat. That's very kind. Oliver, enjoy and good luck with your relatively new dwellings. I wish you all the luck in the world with everything. Let's sort one out for about 6 months and jump back on that postmodern pony and whip its ass.
Hell yes. And I will run away to go to bed because for me it is now 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, so. Thank you very much for making that effort. I know
it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Great stuff, Oliver. Take care.
All right.
Bye, mate. Lovely. What a lovely, lovely bloke. You know, I say things like this at the end of a lot of streams, but I've spoken with Ollie before, obviously. But to be able to talk, you know, it's middle of the night for him. I don't usually stream at this time of day. My ex-girlfriend's the phone's been ringing on a constant loop since the stream started. And you know, lovely comments from the chat. A lot of people enjoyed it. And, you know, it's not a very appealing thumbnail, is it? What is meaning? It's Wednesday, isn't it? Or it's Thursday. I don't know what time it is where you are, but it's like, yeah, 8 o'clock in the morning, Thursday, couple of blokes talking about meaning. But we had like 130, 140 people here for the majority of that. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. What a privilege for Oliver to come on and give us his time and his energy, because he tried. I'm only saying this because he's probably still watching. He did try. He was great, actually. You know, I've got a lot of questions. I've got a lot of questions that I've got to think about, and I've got to go and do some work on because he put forward a lot of very good arguments. And that's why you have those conversations, because, you know, when I see so many streams where it's just a sausage party and everyone's agreeing with each other. I've got very little to learn from that. I actually want to disagree with people so that we might both learn something. Might not be the same thing, but you know, that's what learning's about. I will put a bit of music on and put your comments on the screen as we go away. I want to thank everyone who donated. As I just said to Oliver, I don't, without the donations, I wouldn't stream every day, because that's just a practical reality of having limited time. So thank you very much for all the donations. Thank you, especially anyone who got up early for this, which would be a considerable amount of people. I know that. And thanks for all of you for chipping in, saying your bit, joining in, and all the very encouraging comments. Because although I don't put them all on the screen, I am having the occasional look. And when people are saying this is great, this is an enjoyable stream, that counts, and it contributes to my, you know, the way I can conduct myself, because I'm not sitting here thinking, fuck, everyone's bored, or people think this is rubbish, you know. So that all counts. So thank you all. I'll probably stream later. So if you haven't been here before, I'll probably do I try and stream at least once a day. If you're into writing, weirdly, I am a writer. I've got a Substack. Link in the description. It's not monetized. There's 17 short stories on there. The last one I put on there is the first teaser for my forthcoming novel. It's called Skagless and Bible Black. So link in the description. If you put your email address in, you'll see where to do it. Every new short I write, and it's about one every week. No, it ain't. It's about one a month, will be emailed straight to you. It's a very good way of supporting the channel to do that. So this is a bit of music by a band called Household, which was my band in the 90s. I wrote it, I'm singing. So if you think it sounds like it's a 90s band, and if you think it sounds like it's me singing, it is. Bless you all. I've gone Tom. Ta-ta. Why ain't it happening? Here we go. Bosh, bosh, bosh. Bye.
I'm stupid, I'm lazy, but in the discotheque I still look crazy. Love me, baby, I only tell lies cause the truth escapes. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues.
Will do, Grego.
I'm knackered, I'm fading, but in the right light I still look vaguely human. Happy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Before we cave in. Summertime, we can get new shoes. I'll have brown and you can get the blues. You can get the blues. Don't worry about my heroin addiction, it's only slight. I need you, love me, and I feel the same again tonight.
It's on SoundCloud with about 10 other tracks. I'll put the link in the chat.
And you can get the blues. You can get the blues. You can get the blues.
There's the link. everything. That's how pop music works. Managed by Radiohead, weirdly. And there you go. Thank you very much, people. Don't forget, get on my Substack, enjoy reading it, sign up, leave a comment, and I will see you later tonight. I'll probably be streaming about 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock UK time. Now go on, bugger off down your own end before you get a clip round the ear. Hoita!